Hello everybody, Jerome Wright here, and once again you're joining me on my Jerome Wright channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about health issues, birth defects, ongoing chronic issues that we have from childhood on and into adulthood, and other more logical explanations for how this is going on in us just from the environments that we are in, the unforeseen dangers and hazardous substances that are around us that we don't even realize that are there and we've been exposed to all of our life. All right. So in this video, I'm going to tell you pretty much, and this applies to me too, because I grew up in this way as well too. So this is going to resonate with you, and I mean, this is going to be surreal because you're going to say, you know what, he's 100% right. All right, let's take this and let's do something with this. All right, my uncle, he passed away now, and he used to tell me as a child, and they sit around, tell the folk tales and things like that. He used to say, if you ever go to a strange place or a strange city or strange town, and you wanted to find out where were your people of your own kind or where the ghettos were, he said all you had to do was just follow the railroad tracks in any town, and that railroad track could take you right through the ghetto. You know what I mean? So sure enough, excuse me, as I got older, that's what I used to actually find. I used to, just to see if he was right, just to see if I could prove him wrong. But to this day, excuse me, to this day, he has always been right. Hold on. Excuse me. Anyway, here we go. Here, let me click on a railroad track here. I grew up in a scenario pretty much like you see here. When there was railroad tracks, my house would be off to the side, and I would cross across these railroad tracks every day. This is not where I lived at, people. This is a similar scenario. And I would play on these railroad tracks. I would pick up stones. I would play with the railroad ties. I would play on the railroad track, play with the nuts and the bolts around the road, everything. Cause this is what children do. Then these railroad tracks run about, I say, and if I had to guess, maybe about an 8 to 10 mile in direction, because we have crisscrossing railroad tracks in our way, and we have a boulevard that they actually run down about maybe a 6 or 7 mile stretch, and then through the town and going in the opposite direction. So there's a cross of these railroad tracks going right through pretty much center city of our town here in Vineland. All right, and in fact, it almost looks just like this here, to be totally honest with you, because there's another set of railroad tracks back here going this way, and then there's a set going this way. This is what pretty much what it would look like. This would be the boulevard in our town, and then this would be running along the stretch of Pear Street down in our town. So this is a very similar scenario to what our town would look like. Now, it doesn't look like that. Now, this is a country more so town. We can have a more modern town now, thanks to development. However, let's pretend that I lived on this stretch. I used to walk a 2 mile stretch on this railroad track, and I would go to a very similar place to like this right here, which is a train trestle right here, and you'll see water down there, and we would get up on here as a child, and you see some folks there doing that. I mean, it was identical to this, even the broken road tracks and everything, and we would jump off down into the water, and there was a swimming hole, which was actually Marsh River. Okay, now here you see this would be me right here. Here you see again children playing on railroad tracks. That's a scenario that you would see with me. Look, you see this here? This is all me right here playing on railroad tracks. Look at this. These scenarios of playing on railroad tracks all my life, this is what I would actually be doing there. You see this? Look at that. All right, now, but you know what the problem is with all of this here? You see the little boy coming in direct contact with those railroad tracks? There's a problem with this, because those railroad tracks, people, contain a preservative ingredient of about 100 or 150 different chemicals, which is called creosote or creosote. All right, these are on the list of hazardous materials in your environmental archives. If you read into this creosote or creosote, it actually it causes skin problems. It causes lung problems. It's a hazardous material that has to be disposed of, not even in your regular landfill. It has to be gotten rid of, almost like in a sense like you would nuclear waste. So this stuff is all through your communities and exposed to children. No warning signs, no nothing. And just like this child is sitting there playing on the railroad tracks, I have did for most of the years of my life. And not only that, imagine a sweltering sun heat hitting these not the railroad tracks, but the railroad ties, and the vapors from this emitted matter of this cocktail chemistry of these hazardous material getting airborne, like in a way that you would like pollen would. And your children, you're living by this. Your windows are open. You call yourself getting a inhale of fresh summer air, and you're taking in this shit. Now, but hold it. It's not just this though, people. It's not just this. Because there is something else that this creosote appears on. Hold on, let me see if I get some more. Oh, here's another image of these children. Let me let this get. This is me, people. All my life as a child up into my adulthood, I was playing on railroad tracks, have to cross these railroad tracks, have to walk down these railroad tracks to get from point A to point B, because there was no traffic. It seemed like it would be a safer passage because the trains don't run on these every day like they do in major cities. So for the most part, I mean, a train would come out maybe like once a week or so, and it would be on it where you would hear it coming for miles and miles, and you would know it's coming. So it was not really, I mean, the train was not really an issue. But the main issue was the railroad ties, which is actually contained an ingredient and pesticides. It's called creosote or creosote. It's almost a cancerous causing additive that's in these logs. Now imagine these children coming across here. In the wintertime, I can't imagine it being that bad. But in the summertime, when the sweltering heat, when these when these logs are taking and letting off vaporized matter, these children coming across, walking down these tracks, you have to inhale this shit. You have to. There's no way around it. And you can even smell that tarry smell. That tar smell. When you go near a railroad track, that's just what you smell, that tar smell. Now, not just that, they're saying that this stuff goes down into your spring water. It goes down into the soil, and once it gets down into the spring water level, it says it takes years and years and years to get out. So imagine us where people are drinking well water, and it's actually going into your well water and everything else. If you Google this information, people, you will see that I'm right. Now, the only thing is nobody has never addressed this before. Now, here's the next thing about all of this. If you have regular city tap water, this stuff goes down into your sewer drains and all. Now, there's something else about this I'm going to get into, because this is not just the only hazard. Now, you got railroad tracks. Most of us got railroad tracks in our towns and in our cities. So that is one issue of creosote. The next issue of creosote, which is just as damning, is all of our areas are littered with telephone poles. The same exact scenario. These poles have creosote on them. In our city blocks, each and every one of our blocks, we have anywhere from maybe like from a smaller number of 6, anywhere to possibly, depending on the size of your block, maybe 10, 20 poles of these poles in your neighborhood. Don't worry about the transformers and all of the wires. People were worrying about the wires. The poles have the creosote on them. And if you go in your and you'll get with me on this, because most of these poles, if you look at them in your neighborhood, what happens with them is that they actually have a puddle substance down to the bottom of them. If you look from in the summer heat from where the creosote runs down the pole, and if you look around the ledges of the pole, you'll see like a tarry substance at the base of the pole. And that's what this stuff is. Now, mind you, as a child, here's some of these poles here. Look, this is in a storm. Look at this town. Imagine this. Imagine you sleeping in one of these houses. and the creosote off these poles. Now imagine that. You have your windows open, not even understanding. Now imagine pollen, what the effect that pollen has on your lungs, on your eyes, the allergy effects. Now imagine this having a cancer causing effects on you. Are you with me, people, on this? Oh, yeah, sure you are. Now, my thing is that, look at this. This is almost like, I don't know, like a thing where like they want this to be happening. Because why wouldn't an environmentalist or anyone be speaking about this? Why is it me, through my paranormal experience and encounter, that I'm bringing this to you? I've been exposed to, I've been playing on these poles, scratching my names on poles, people hang signs on poles, children get around these poles, and there's no labeling on these poles. Here's one that has junk cars. Look at this. People hanging. Look at this town. What kills me too is no matter where you go, you see these buildings. You know my experience. Oh, hold on. What in the hell do I have here? Oh, I hate tapping something else. All right. I see this building back here. I'm always seeing these Greek style buildings and stuff. You know, I stop in my tracks once I see that Greek and Roman style buildings. You know what I mean? Because I call them dimensional doorways, because they don't have no business in America, but they're here. So I call. But anyway, check this out, people. Look at this. Look at all of the staples in this pole. People coming. Your children come there. How many times have you came and hugged the pole? I've done it 1,000 times as a child. You sit there waiting or leaning on a pole. Your children leaning on these poles, and they have this cancer-causing effect to them that now it attacks your lungs and everything. Let me read some of this stuff off, because these are some of the health problems that can be caused. Long exposure to creosote vapors can irritate the lungs. Exposure to smaller amounts of creosote over time by direct skin contact or by contact with creosote vapors may cause blistering, peeling, or reddening of the skin, damage to the eyes, increased sensitivity to sunlight. Eating food or drinking water with large amounts of creosote may cause burning in the mouth and throat, stomach pains. Accidentally eating large amounts of creosote for a short period of time can cause bad skin rash, eye burns, convulsions, kidney and liver problems, unconsciousness, and death. How creosote can affect children. Not many studies exist on health effects in creosote in children. Generally, researchers have found that creosote, children who play with creosote contaminated soil tend to get skin rashes than other children. To get more skin rashes than other children. So children that play with it get skin rashes. So that they're saying. All right. Additionally, some studies with laboratory evidence suggest that creosote exposure can cause birth defects. No, they're saying that this can cause birth defects that they're showing in lab animals. Let me see, such as cleft palate. All right, cleft palate when the roof of the mouth is not fully closed. Among babies born to mothers exposed to high levels of creosote during pregnancy. Other studies have shown that creosote may cross the placenta, getting into the tissues of the fetus. Oh my gosh, this is serious, people. This is serious. Now, these creosote poles are all through your town. How many minutes do I have here? 13. All right, I only got about one more minute. So, people, I'm going to put more in writing. But this creosote, this can cause birth defects, and each one of your towns are littered. Now, you go out there and count the poles in your own neighborhood. You probably come up with maybe 300 or 400 of these creosote poles, and then the railroad tracks. This exposure, probably in the wintertime, it probably is not such as bad, but in the summertime, could you imagine the heat hitting these poles? Now, this pole is not freshly coated. When these poles are put in the ground, they're freshly coated. Now, there's probably more of this creosote down inside of the pole, but these poles, I think that they're switching them now more so to like another chemical that they put on these poles. But the fact of the matter is that all of these poles, these preservatives that are on these poles, are causing a harmful effect to us. You know what I mean? And me as a child, been exposed to it all my life. See if I can catch another pole here. All my life I've been exposed to it, and now not until me having this paranormal experience and encounter that I actually I'm bringing this to you. I'm gonna put more in writing here, and I'm gonna go from there. Okay, I'm gonna stop this video there, all right, because I'm running out of time anyway.